Shalom, this video is about patrilineality versus matrilineality. The question as to who is a Jew, which I addressed in Jewu 273, expanded here a little bit on the issue of, in biblical times, you determined who was a Jew by the father. For example, when Abraham and Sarah married, Sarah wasn't a Jew. Abraham was the first Jew. Their son Isaac was Jewish. And then so on and so forth. Isaac marries Rebekah. Jacob marries Rachel and Leah. He had two concubines. All throughout the Bible it was through the father. And then, but the Mishnah and the Gemara, the oral law, said it's through the mother. Now we're not sure why the change occurred. Some scholars believe it happened because there was a change in Roman law around that time, 2,000 years ago, and the Talmud was written under Roman law. Some people say, well, you can always tell who the mother is, although that's complicated now because of surrogacy. In any event, for the last 2,000 years, we determine Jewish status by the mother. Now, some other things in Judaism are determined by the father, like whether you're a priestly descendant or a Levite. But in the issue of who is a Jew, it's the mother. Doesn't matter if the father is the most pious guy in the world and the mother's not Jewish, the child's not Jewish. Now, you could always remedy the situation if the mother was not Jewish by converting the child afterwards. In fact, we do so. And this is still the policy of the conservative and the Orthodox denominations in Judaism. However, in 1983, the Central Conference of American Rabbis, the Reformed Rabbinate, stated it had a resolution saying we face an unprecedented situation due to the changed conditions in which decisions concerning the status of a child of a mixed marriage are to be made. Contrary to 2,000 years of tradition, the resolution accepted the Jewish identity of children of Jewish fathers and non-Jewish mothers under certain circumstances. Basically, that they have to be raised as a Jew. They have to have life cycle events as a Jew. Now, there's another question as to whether they're not raised as a Jew, whether Reform rabbis will still accept them as Jewish. Not sure. It depends, I suppose, on the Reform rabbi. And there's all kinds of possibilities and questions. What if a child's raised as nothing and then later in high school or college life adopts certain Jewish practices? So the Reform rabbis have to make those decisions. And Reconstructionist rabbis adopted that idea too, of patrilineality. Now, the question is, what do we do about it, since conservative and Orthodox don't? This issue came up for a vote, and I will confess that I voted to go with patrilineality when it came up for a vote, because my revered teacher, Rabbi Seymour Siegel, thought that was the way to go. And he said, because we've got to choose now with whom we want to merge to keep the Jewish people from dividing. And so he thought that the majority was going to be Reform and Reconstructionist. But still, that vote massively lost, and the position of maintaining matrilineality won hugely. So much so it became a standard of rabbinic practice in the Rabbinical Assembly. So it's one of just a few things that conservative rabbis must adhere to absolutely, or they forfeit their membership. Included in that list are performance of intermarriages, officiating at a marriage of somebody who was married before to a Jew and does not have a Jewish divorce, or converting somebody without immersion in a mikveh and circumcision when necessary, for a male, obviously. But in this case, patrilineality and matrilineality. Now, we can certainly remedy the situation by simply taking a child to the mikveh, which I do all the time. I have had from time to time, and I know other rabbis have had this experience too, of where somebody who grew up in a Reform synagogue, had a bar mitzvah, went to Hebrew school, was always treated as a Jew, perhaps had no idea that other Jews have a different view. Then they fall in love with a Jew, born of a Jewish mother, and the rabbi then says, well, you're not really Jewish, are they? So I have several people in our conversion program, males who've had this situation, or females, that they fall in love with a Jewish person, and they in most cases, they kind of knew that some rabbis didn't agree with their Jewish identity, and they resented it. But several of them are converting now because they said they understand, they want to be more accepted by the Jewish people. They don't want any questions about the future, especially if it's a female, about her children, and so we're converting them. But I've also had the situation where some people on principle said, we're not going to convert the children, we believe in patrilineality. Now, the term itself is kind of unusual because really it's matrilineal or patrilineal in the Reform and Reconstructionist movement. But they say patrilineal to differentiate it from matrilineal descent. In any case, that's basically what the issue is. The split among the Jewish people as to how you determine whether somebody's Jewish. Now, the arguments are very compelling on both sides. On the side for patrilineality, in other words, either parent, you say, in this age where people are changing religions, why be so fixed about having these baseline standards? Why just accept people who want to say that they're part of the Jewish people, they're Jewish? On the other hand, you have a 2,000-year-old precedent. You have the idea that societies have a right to determine who's a member and who's not. And it's very simple. If they want to be a member, they always have the option of converting. Now, in my Who is a Jew video, I deal with the other issue of the Orthodox clamping down on the question of conversion and not authorizing anyone but a few rabbis to convert people, which makes it much tougher, but that's a separate issue. Anyway, that's basically an introduction to the question of patrilineality.